Wrestling News CC family, what I'm about to tell you will shake you to your core. The night everything changed began like any other for Jacob Fatu. The Samoan Werewolf, riding a wave of momentum unlike anything we've seen since the rise of Roman Reigns, had just been announced as the next potential challenger for WWE's Undisputed Championship. But before we dive into this earth-shattering story, smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell because what happened that night has sent shockwaves through the entire wrestling world, and you're going to want to follow every single development that comes next. This isn't just another wrestling story. This is the night that changed everything. Jacob Fatu had dominated match after match, undefeated in singles competition since his arrival. His power was undeniable. His agility defied logic. His bloodline, sacred. His allegiance, ironclad. Everything about Jacob Fatu screamed championship material, and WWE management had finally taken notice. For months, we watched the Samoan Werewolf tear through the roster like a force of nature. Veterans fell before him. Rising stars crumbled under his assault. Every victory was more dominant than the last, each performance more spectacular than anyone thought possible. The wrestling world was buzzing. Social media exploded with highlight reels of Jacob's devastating moves. Wrestling journalists were calling him the most complete performer to debut in years. Even hardcore fans who are typically skeptical of new talent were forced to acknowledge that Jacob Fatu was something special, something different. His combination of raw power and surprising athleticism made him a nightmare for opponents to game plan against. One moment he'd be throwing someone across the ring like they weighed nothing, the next he'd be flying through the air with moves that shouldn't be possible for someone his size. But it wasn't just his physical abilities that caught everyone's attention. Jacob carried himself with the confidence and presence of someone born for this business. The wrestling was in his blood, and it showed in every gesture, every expression, every moment he spent in that ring. When WWE announced that Jacob Fatu would be the next challenger for the Undisputed Championship, it felt like destiny finally aligning with talent. This wasn't a promotional stunt or a desperate attempt to create buzz. This was recognition of what everyone had been watching, the rise of a legitimate superstar. The announcement sent the wrestling community into overdrive. Forums lit up with predictions and analysis. YouTube channels dedicated entire episodes to breaking down Jacob's chances. Betting odds shifted dramatically as fans and experts alike recognized that this wasn't just another challenger, this was someone who could genuinely change the championship landscape. Jacob himself seemed to embrace the moment with the kind of quiet confidence that separates true stars from pretenders. In interviews, he spoke about honoring his family legacy while creating his own path to glory. He talked about the responsibility of representing his bloodline on the biggest stage in sports entertainment. The build-up was perfect. Every promo felt authentic. Every match felt like preparation for something bigger. Jacob was living his dream, and the wrestling world was watching it unfold in real time. But as we've learned time and time again in this business, sometimes the biggest opportunities come with the biggest risks. And sometimes, the people closest to you are the ones who pose the greatest threat. And then came the betrayal. What happened inside that arena will be remembered as one of the most shocking ambushes in WWE history. Not because of the brutality alone, but because of the blood spilled, metaphorically and spiritually. This was more than wrestling. This was civil war. This was family versus family. Cousin against cousin. Legacy versus ambition. As the crowd chanted Jacob's name that night, the arena bathed in electric tension. The match had just reached its final stages. Jacob had decimated his opponent with a performance that showcased every single skill that had made him the talk of the wrestling world. With the fans roaring their approval, he ascended the top rope, poised to unleash the Samoan splash, a move that had crushed many careers before it. This was his signature, his exclamation point, the devastating finishing move that had become synonymous with Jacob Fatu's dominance. But before he could leap, before he could finish the story that night, the lights shut off. Darkness. Then silence. A few seconds felt like an eternity. The crowd's cheers turned to confused murmurs as everyone tried to process what was happening. Then came the music. A theme long absent from WWE programming. A theme only the hardcore fans could recognize immediately, and they did. A deep, tribal beat layered with tension. A slow-burning anthem of defiance. It was Tama. When the lights came back, he stood on the ramp, shoulders squared, arms crossed, jaw locked in pure rage. He looked like a storm held together by skin. The crowd was stunned. Some screamed, some chanted, some fell into shocked silence. Jacob stood in the ring, confused and vulnerable, still perched on the top rope but now looking toward the entrance ramp instead of down at his fallen opponent. What happened next unfolded in slow motion, yet happened so fast that many fans didn't process it until they watched the replays. Tama didn't walk to the ring, he sprinted. His face was a mask of fury and determination, and every step he took toward that ring carried the weight of months, maybe years, of built-up resentment. Jacob, still trying to understand what was happening, never saw the attack coming. Tama slid into the ring and delivered a devastating blow that sent Jacob crashing from the top rope to the canvas below. The impact echoed through the arena like a gunshot. But this wasn't just one attack. This was a systematic destruction of everything Jacob Fatu represented. Tama unleashed a fury that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than wrestling rivalry. This felt personal, family business being settled in the most public way possible. The referee tried to intervene, but this was beyond the rules of any match. Security rushed the ring, but Tama fought them off with the same intensity he was directing at Jacob. This wasn't just an attack, this was a statement being written in blood and betrayal. Jacob, dazed and battered, tried to fight back, but he was caught completely off guard. The confusion in his eyes was heartbreaking to watch. This wasn't just physical pain. This was the anguish of someone whose entire world had just been turned upside down by someone he trusted. The assault continued until WWE officials finally managed to separate the two men, but the damage was done. Jacob lay in the ring, not just physically beaten but emotionally shattered. Tama stood at the top of the ramp, breathing heavily, his message delivered with devastating clarity. The immediate aftermath was chaos. Medical personnel rushed to check on Jacob while security formed a barrier to prevent any further confrontation. The crowd was in stunned silence, processing what they had just witnessed. Social media exploded within minutes. #Toma Betrayal and #Samoan Werewolf Down were trending worldwide before Jacob had even been helped to the back. Wrestling journalists scrambled to provide context and analysis for what had just occurred. But beyond the immediate shock value, this attack represents something much deeper and more significant for the future of WWE programming. The relationship between Jacob Fatu and Tama had been one of mutual respect and family loyalty. They had stood together through battles, supported each other's careers, and represented their bloodline with honor. This betrayal shattered all of that in a single moment. It transformed allies into enemies, turned family bonds into weapons of war, and created a storyline that goes far beyond typical wrestling feuds. This is personal in a way that transcends entertainment. This feels real because the emotions behind it are real. The implications for Jacob's championship opportunity are staggering. How can someone focus on the biggest match of their career when they're dealing with this kind of emotional trauma? How do you prepare for a championship bout when you're looking over your shoulder for the next betrayal? The attack raises so many questions that the wrestling world is desperate to have answered. What drove Tama to such extreme measures? Was this jealousy over Jacob's championship opportunity? Was there backstage drama that fans never saw? Or does this betrayal run deeper, into family politics and bloodline hierarchies that we can only guess at? Some wrestling analysts are speculating that Tama felt overlooked while Jacob received all the attention and opportunities. Others suggest that this might be connected to larger family dynamics within the Samoan wrestling dynasty. There are even theories that outside forces manipulated Tama into this betrayal for their own purposes. What we do know is that Tama's attack wasn't random or spontaneous. The calculated nature of the assault, the timing of his return, and the intensity of his fury all suggest that this betrayal was planned and personal. This wasn't a moment of weakness or temporary insanity. This was revenge served cold and deliberate. The wrestling community is also questioning what this means for other members of their extended family. Will they be forced to choose sides? Will this betrayal create ripple effects throughout the entire Samoan wrestling dynasty? The potential for this single act of betrayal to reshape multiple storylines is enormous. For Jacob personally, the questions are even more devastating. How do you trust anyone after being betrayed by family? How do you focus on your career when your personal life has been shattered so publicly? Despite the devastating nature of this betrayal, Jacob Fatu's story is far from over. If anything, this attack might be the catalyst that transforms him from a dominant performer into a truly transcendent character. The greatest wrestling stories often emerge from the deepest personal conflicts, and Jacob now has motivation that goes beyond championship gold. The wrestling world has seen this pattern before. A rising star gets knocked down by betrayal, only to come back stronger and more determined than ever. But Jacob's situation feels different because of the family element. This isn't just about proving himself as a wrestler, this is about rebuilding his entire identity after having it shattered by someone he trusted. His eventual return to action will be must-see television. The crowd will be watching for signs of how this betrayal has changed him. Will he be more cautious? More aggressive? More paranoid about potential threats? The psychological aspects of his character development could create some of the most compelling television WWE has produced in years. The championship opportunity that seemed so certain before the attack now becomes even more meaningful. If Jacob can overcome this betrayal and still capture championship gold, it would represent one of the greatest comeback stories in wrestling history. The narrative possibilities are endless and exciting. As we try to process this shocking betrayal and its implications for the future, one thing is certain: WWE has created a storyline with genuine emotional depth and real consequences. This isn't just another wrestling feud, this is a family drama playing out on the biggest stage in sports entertainment. Jacob Fatu's journey from dominant force to betrayed victim to eventual redemption, hopefully, represents everything that makes professional wrestling special. When personal stakes combine with athletic competition, the result is storytelling that resonates far beyond typical entertainment. The wrestling world will be watching closely to see how Jacob responds to this betrayal. Will he seek immediate revenge? Will he focus on his championship dreams? Will he try to understand what drove Tama to such extreme measures? Every choice he makes will shape not just his own story, but the entire landscape of WWE programming. Tama Tonga's motivations remain a mystery, but his impact is undeniable. He has single-handedly shifted the trajectory of multiple storylines and created one of the most talked-about moments in recent WWE history. What did you think of this shocking betrayal? Do you believe Jacob can overcome this setback and still capture championship gold? What do you think motivated Tama's attack? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. I read every single one and love hearing your analysis. Don't forget to smash that like button if this breakdown helped you process this incredible storyline, subscribe to Wrestling News CC for more exclusive wrestling content, and ring that notification bell because this story is just getting started, and you won't want to miss a single development. Until next time, this has been Wrestling News CC, and remember, in the wrestling world, the biggest betrayals often come from the people we trust most, but they also create the most powerful stories of redemption and revenge. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. If you thought tonight's story was wild, trust me, what happens next will blow your mind. So don't stop now. Click on the video right here on your screen to continue the chaos, the drama, and the inside scoop only we deliver. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and join the Wrestling News CC family, where the real stories of WWE come to life. See you in the next one.